From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Thank you for joining us here on Local 4 Plus. Click on Detroit.com, and as we're streaming on YouTube as well. Plenty of conversations happening here in the next 2 hours. First, we're going to head up north where we are talking with the DNR about a major delay in a 10-year federal plan. The reason? The ice storms back in March, they changed everything. And search and rescue operations continue for a week now in Texas. The questions are now intensifying about how this happened and could the number of deaths be prevented. And while we're used to talking about interstates like 696 in Southfield, it is the county roads we're also going to talk about. A conversation with Wayne County Executive Warren Evans about roads and other county issues and a lack of funding for road repairs. We also want to hear what your questions are for Wayne County Executive Warren Evans. If you live in Wayne County, tell us what you want to know. Scan the QR code there on the bottom of your screen. We can take those questions directly to him. We'll see what he has to say. Again, that QR code will take you to a link to submit your questions. Let's get to our news headlines this morning. Warren police are releasing body cam video after a shootout between a man and police. We first brought you this story as breaking news on Tuesday morning. It started with police responding to a domestic violence call in Warren. A woman said her boyfriend had beaten and strangled her and then tried to set her house on fire. That call led to a chase between that man and police. Officers say he fired at them while running to his mother's house, but police and a witness disagree on what happened next. One witness says officers shot the man and he died as a result, but Warren police say that is not the case, saying we are confident that the evidence we will present will clearly and unequivocally refute every single one of the false statements, assertions, and conclusions being publicized. Our facts, supported by compelling video and other evidence, will unquestionably demonstrate that the deceased death was a direct result of his own actions involving a firearm as officers approached him. Police are having an update at 10:30 this morning. That's 2.5 hours from now. We're going to bring you that update live here on Local 4 Plus. This afternoon, the Pontiac mom accused of abandoning her 3 kids in a filthy home. She's expected in court. Kelly Bryant facing several charges, including child abuse. The kids allegedly lived alone in that home for years. Bryant is also charged with stealing benefits meant for the kids. She's currently out of jail on bond. Today, she'll be in court for a pretrial hearing. That begins at 1:30 this afternoon. Well, 31 workers are safe this morning after a partial collapse of a Los Angeles industrial tunnel yesterday. This happened last night. The LA Fire Department sent a massive amount of resources, including all of their urban search and rescue teams. 27 workers were able to escape from that collapsed tunnel. 4 other workers went in to help with the rescue efforts. They escaped by climbing over a large mound of loose soil and finding their way out at the only entrance 5 miles away without anybody getting seriously hurt. We still do not know how the tunnel itself collapsed. Let's take a live look in Texas this morning. More than 170 people still unaccounted for after catastrophic floods. Now questions are intensifying about whether enough was done to warn residents about the rising floodwaters. We're also starting to hear heartbreaking stories of survival. 1 week after those floods took the lives of at least 120 people. One of the stories coming from a teen rescued by firefighters after he and his family were swept away.
Covered where the sliding door was. This was anything, just boxes or with the table, but it just kept moving. We thought maybe we would still be okay, but then that's when the vents, water just started coming like super fast from the vents. I remember something hitting me on the head. How I recall it is the roof fell, but just next thing I know, house is gone, so I'm just in the water, just grab whatever. I wasn't really able to hold on to it. I just kept going. I think I just hit like a lot of rubble, just like parts of houses, trees.
Well, right now, as you can see, Leo's father, stepmother, and 2-year-old brother are all still missing. A memorial has been set up in downtown Kerrville to honor the lives lost. Let's head up north right now, taking a live look at Harbor Springs this morning. That's where the landscape is drastically different after those spring ice storms back in March. We were up north just after the ice storms, and take a look at what it looked like. The ice proved destructive to the trees, causing many to snap from the weight. Crews have spent months recreating the landscape in parks and campgrounds. This is video from around the beginning of the month showing that destruction. According to the DNR, all the campgrounds and parks are now open. However, about 60% of the trails are still closed. Let's put this into some context. According to the DNR, more than 900,000 acres of state forest land were affected. And of trails up north, right now about 1,200 miles of trails are open. Nearly 1,700 miles are still closed. As a result of this, a major 10-year state forest management plan is now being delayed by at least a year. The State Forest Management Plan is a federally required plan to manage all 19.3 million acres of Michigan's public and private forests. The Michigan DNR is working on revising its information to account for all of the storm damage. Joining us to talk about that delay and the changing landscape of northern Michigan, Dan Heckman, who is a forest planning and modeling specialist with the Michigan DNR. Thank you so much for joining us, Dan. What's really interesting to me is that this storm hit, the cleanup began. You've done a phenomenal job cleaning up what we could see, but I don't think many people realize how this affects your long-term plans up there.
Yeah, the ice damage really had a severe impact to trees of all species across that 900,000 acres, and we rely on the health and vigorous nature of those trees to have a sustainable forest for folks to enjoy, and also to support a sustainable forest industry.
Yeah. Okay. So, in terms of what your plans are and how they change, what happens next?
Well, we're in the stages of assessment right now, trying to determine what the impacts were to those trees from that ice damage and how severe or light those impacts are. We're looking at different forest cover types across the landscape to try and determine what actions we take next. Some of them are pretty evident right away, and we could start salvage operations almost immediately on some cover types like planted red pine. You've probably seen some of the videos where those trees are completely removed. The tops are just gone. And so that's obviously a place where we can get in and start to salvage some of that timber and start to clear roads and trails and things like that. Other areas aren't quite as obvious. The damage is a little bit less severe, but still widespread, and it's still going to cause some forest health issues and definitely some slower growth in some trees.
Gotcha. I don't know anything about your industry and how you do what you do. So can you kind of walk us through the process of how much mitigation needs to happen by humans and how much of Mother Nature and the landscape can kind of repair itself?
Yeah, it's important to remember that this was a natural event. It's a fairly rare event, especially to the extent that this storm and the damage that it caused. But it was a natural event, and so trees have mechanisms to deal with things like this. And if a stem or individual tree was to succumb to its injuries and die, then that will be replaced by regenerating trees underneath that. So seeds are constantly thrown every year, every couple of years by different tree species, and those seeds will germinate and become new trees. And so we tend to intervene a little bit there and try to steer the forest in different directions and grow certain tree species and maybe encourage one group of tree species versus another. And that's really what active forest management is all about. And so we can, rather than letting natural processes take place across the entire state forest, we let that happen on a proportion of it. But we also get involved and start to harvest different forest types in different ways that help steer it in different directions and get desirable habitat and desirable wood and forest products that we all use, for things like construction and, different building materials and lots of other products like furniture and flooring and things like that.
Yeah, I know you've spent probably a countless number of hours out there working on this project and the cleanup itself too. Were you surprised at how much damage was there, or did you know that what you were walking into would be as bad because of all the ice and the weight?
Yeah, so there was, those of us that lived through that, you could hear the trees coming down or the tops cracking, falling out, or branches coming off these trees all night long and for several consecutive days. And so it wasn't really a safe place to be to get out and, survey inside of the forest just because of the amount of debris coming down at any given time. And then the weather stayed cold and that ice stayed in those trees, and then we had a pretty significant wind event which brought down even more. All right, so we those of us that were kind of in the middle of this figured what it would be like, but we've never seen anything like this across this broad of an area and to this extent of damage. And so it was pretty eye-opening once you actually tried to drive around, just driving down normal forest roads that we've always been able to access to do management or to do some sort of recreation. And they're completely plugged, right? You couldn't go anywhere hardly at all in that roughly 3 million acre area.
Right.
And so
right.
it was pretty significant. It was pretty surprising.
Yeah. Dan, we're going to take a quick 90-second break, and we're going to continue our conversation in just a moment.
All right.
Welcome back, everybody. We are talking with Dan Heckman with Michigan DNR this morning. Dan, I wanted to ask you, before I came back home here to Detroit, I spent a lot of time in California. And one thing that always caught me by surprise is that while wildfires were devastating, it was also very helpful and regenerative to Mother Nature out there. Is there a silver lining in these ice storms that kind of gives Mother Nature a chance to regenerate some areas that needed some help?
Yeah, I think the silver lining might be more from a habitat perspective. Lots of coarse woody debris is what we call it, and that's really just fallen branches and trees that lay in the forest floor. That's a sign of a healthy forest ecosystem. The abundance of which we see now is probably way more than what's necessary to have a healthy forest from this disturbance. But nonetheless, that's probably a silver lining there for wildlife habitats. There's lots of small mammals and insects that will thrive in those microenvironments that are created from this debris in the forest floor. And it created a lot of standing snags where there, things like woodpeckers and cavity nesting species will certainly benefit.
Yeah.
So that could be a silver lining for sure.
So we talked about your 10-year plan here. Looking at the amount of work that still needs to be done and all the regrowth that needs to happen now, does this push this plan back another year, 2 years, 5 years, or do you have to kind of assess as you go over the next couple of years?
Yeah, you asked, about the status of where we're at, and we were starting to talk about assessment, and really that's the first stage, right? We assess the amount of damage, and then once we have a pretty good handle on that, where we can project that assessment across the rest of the acreage, we will incorporate an adjustment to our harvest schedules and our planning efforts in order to kind of fold that into the rest of the state forest plan. We anticipate that plan being delayed approximately 1 year. So while we get this assessment done and then analyze the impacts and incorporate that into our forest model and then execute that, that'll support our new plan for this area. The ice storm damaged about a quarter of the state forest. The state forest is roughly 4 million acres, and that 900,000 acres is close to a quarter of that. So It's a pretty big impact, and definitely something we need to make sure that we adapt to and have a sustainable plan moving forward.
Now, for
And that'll be a
those who
10-year
don't
plan.
understand what it is you guys do at all, can you kind of explain the purpose
Mm-hmm.
of your role in having a management plan? Because I think some people just assume that the forests are unmanaged and grow wild and there's nobody taking care of them.
Right, right. Yeah, the state forest is a working forest. It is legislatively mandated that forest provides lots of different values, and some of those values are timber and forest products. Other values would be like outdoor recreation, um, things like trails and streams and aquatic habitat. All of those things matter, right? So it's important when we're managing. The DNR is in charge of managing this publicly owned forest, which is broken up into 3 different sections. It's the northern lower peninsula, the east UP, and the west UP, and that makes up the 4 million acres. We try to set some desired future conditions for that forest, and then we attempt to make different management objectives and actions to get us from where we are today to what those desired future conditions are. And we do that through active forest management, which is mostly harvesting, some prescribed burning, opening maintenance, things like that. So lots of thinnings, clear cuts, different silvicultural treatments, we call them, to help steer the forest in different directions and manage for a variety of wildlife habitat and kind of get it in a good place. The key here is to ensure that we've got a diverse ecosystem that can really adapt to change as things happen, like the ice storm.
Gotcha. All right, Dan Hackman, Michigan DNR, thank you so much for your time on this Thursday morning. A lot of insight into a world that very few people understand and know you do exist. Dan, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, when we come back, we are going to stay up north in about 90 seconds here. A live look now at Mackinac Island this morning, producer Mary's favorite spot to show us. The iconic staple that's celebrating another year around the sun. Welcome back. Before we bring in our favorite meteorologist, Ashley Barrissey, let's take a look at the Grand Hotel opening its doors back in 1887 on this day in history. In the 138 years it's been open, 6 U.S. presidents have stayed there, and 2 major films have been shot there, this time for keeps, which came out in 1947, and the 1980 film Somewhere in Time, starring Christopher Reeves, Jane Seymour, and Christopher Plummer. Also, at 660 feet, the Grand Hotel's front porch is the largest front porch in the world. Every season, more than 150,000 guests stay at the Grand Hotel. It is grand, isn't it?
It is grand. And if you are heading to the Grand Hotel this weekend, chance for rain Saturday, but Friday and Sunday are looking beautiful.
Oh, okay then. Have you
like
stayed there
that?
before? Have you been there?
I have been there.
Yes.
I have not stayed.
Neither have
there.
I. Been there,
Yes.
never stayed.
Yeah, been there and like ate at the restaurant in there,
Right.
and it's just so beautiful. But
I love
yeah.
just sitting out on the porch and just,
I know.
I can't imagine what it'd be like to just wake up and have your morning coffee and look out to all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like majestic, right?
I know. Minus the coffee, because I'm not a coffee drinker.
Same.
My hot chocolate, some marshmallows maybe.
You are such a big kid.
I know.
I was thinking like sipping on like a hot black tea, and you're like, nah, my hot chocolate. Well, I'd say it's a colder chocolate type of day. I don't know if that's even a thing. Iced hot chocolate?
I guess.
Maybe?
It's actually funny. Tim Hortons had an iced hot chocolate for a while.
Oh, yeah?
That doesn't make any sense. It was delicious.
I'm sure it was. Well,
was.
anything
Well, it's
chocolate.
chocolates,
Right,
right?
exactly. Okay, let's go ahead and get to that forecast because we are warming things up as we head throughout the week and the rest of the week heading into the weekend. And so humidity will be on the rise along with those temperatures. Now, you know what that means. Michiganders know heat and humidity, instability, storm chances. So we really have 2 rounds that we're looking at. And I'm going to circle this on the map for you. So starting with today, you see that high pressure that's up over the UP? Oh, there you go. That's going to be what dominates our weather forecast for today, bringing us sunshine and mainly dry conditions. Though with the heat and humidity, you can't rule out something just bubbling up. It'd be so isolated, so I don't want you to bank on seeing rain today. Now, this is the one that's iffy. That's going to be the Friday rainmaker. It's pushing across portions of the Midwest, inching close to Wisconsin, and that could bring some of that instability to where we get some really heavy rainfall Friday. And Storm Prediction Center putting us under marginal risk due to that. But it's a boom or bust type of system with that, so we could get just a little bit of rain out of it, or because of atmospheric factors, you might have an ample amount of it. And so 24 hours out, there's still some uncertainty with that. Now, what is a little more certain is what's just west of there. What I circled there, that's Saturday's rainmaker. It will end up being a cold front that sweeps through. That gives us a better chance for some rain. So flash flood risk tomorrow, marginal level 1 risk, but that's because we could potentially see upward of 2 inches of rain and some downpours that roll through the area. Then as we advance to Saturday, still that level 1 risk for both the upper and lower peninsula, and that's because of the approaching cold front. And we're going to time that out in just a second. Here's a live look at Metro Airport, where we are sitting mainly on either side of 70 degrees across the area. Port Huron a little cooler at 64. Today's the day to get out and mow the lawn because we had the rain yesterday, so probably grew overnight. I mean, it seems to do that this time of year. And then we have more rain chances the next couple of days. But try to do it earlier because it's going to be hot and steamy this afternoon, 85 for that afternoon high. Quick look at the rainfall from yesterday, as we did have a flood advisory come in mid-afternoon yesterday where we picked up more than 3 inches of rain in Melvindale and Lincoln Park. That has subsided. We were right around 2 inches in portions of Livingston and Oakland counties. And so we're adding more to the mix there. Here's a look at how this times out. And so as we go throughout today, mainly sunny conditions. But by the time we get the peak heat of the afternoon tomorrow, that's the timing of that rain. Now, this model keeping it on the lighter side, but I just told you could be a little bit heavier. And then Saturday, want to explain this one too. Typically when a cold front rolls in, you see the shower and storm activity along that front. And that's how this model is tracking it. But with the heat and humidity of the day, I mean, we're talking 90 Saturday. I think you could see some of those storms precede that front, meaning in the heat of the day, afternoon, evening Saturday, you might end up with some of those stronger showers and storms. So be prepared for that if you have outdoor plans on Saturday. Oh, it's going to be toasty. And then 87 Sunday. So even with that rain kind of diminishing as the day goes on, we'll still be warm, and we are flirting with 90 for the first half of next week.
And then you talk about the feels like temp, but it's probably even worse, right?
Right. Saturday's feels like temperatures will be mid to upper 90s. It's the air you can wear. Yeah.
Ashley's hair gets this big.
Hey, the bigger the hair, the closer to God.
Thanks, Ash. Yeah. All right, let's take a live look this morning over in Woodhaven in Wayne County. More fuel-efficient vehicles means bad roads. The new report says because we're filling up less often, the state is not collecting as much in taxes, so county road commissions have less money to fix the roads. Wayne County Executive Warren Evans joining me live to talk about it. He's in the green room as we speak. Good morning, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli with the Local 4 News Update. A meeting in Springfield Township tonight could help leaders decide to approve or deny a gravel pit proposal. The Levy Group wants to install a gravel mine, but neighbors have a list of concerns. The meeting is at 7 o'clock tonight on Daversburg Road. You can also attend online. There's a link on the township's website. If you're watching us over on the TV side, why don't you flip over to Local 4 Plus? More conversations and deep dives on major headlines. Coming up, we're talking with the Wayne County Executive Warren Evans about a lack of funding for road repairs. Plus, it's summertime, and that means bug bites. A conversation with the Macomb County Health Department on how to avoid those bites. And then Dr. McGeorge is here with his best advice on sunscreen, sunburns, even spray tans. Ash is going to come back and look at your forecast in just a minute. A hot and humid one here on your Thursday in Metro Detroit. A live look, thanks to our friends in Windsor. Make it a great morning.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli. Our top hotline here on Local 4 Live, all about road funding. We're going to talk Wayne County, Macomb County, Oakland County, and more. The county executive for Wayne County, Warren Evans, is here. We want to hear from you. Our question of the day: what questions do you have for Mr. Evans? We can take those directly to the man sitting right to my right-hand side. You can't see him just yet. There's a code there at the bottom of your screen. If you scan that QR code, you can submit your questions. Now, as construction season hits full swing, there is a hiccup, and it's all thanks to what is not happening in Lansing. The state legislature cannot reach a deal on road funding programs, and that's putting proposed projects up in the air. That, coupled with issues on a lack of taxes coming in because we're not spending or we're using more fuel-efficient vehicles. As Will Jones reports, county commissions are pretty concerned.
According to a new report from the County Road Association of Michigan, drivers saw fewer of these last year, orange barrels and other markers of construction, and that may be the case going forward due to lack of funding.
We're at the edge of a fiscal cliff.
If Lansing doesn't step up with more road funding, drivers could be in for a bumpier ride.
And what would that look like for drivers?
Sure, that would be a lot more potholes, cracked, crumbling roads. The road surface condition would simply be a lot worse. We'd have a lot more people blowing tires.
The latest progress report from the County Road Association of Michigan shows road repairs have stalled statewide. That's because gas tax revenue is dropping thanks to more fuel-efficient cars, while the cost of construction keeps going up.
Because of the lack of funding, we're not always able in a county to do the fix they want to. They're doing short-term asset preservation to make a small amount of dollars go further.
Road officials in Wayne and Macomb counties are facing the same challenges as Oakland County. Wayne County says it's working hard to maintain critical infrastructure, but the gap between need and resources keeps growing. And Macomb County says it's exploring every possible funding option.
And what would you say to the legislature?
I think they recognize the need. I think they just need to get the job done now. We will try to do the best we can to try to stretch out the improvements we can, but there's only so much we can do without additional funding.
We reached out to Republican House Speaker Matt Hall and Democratic Senate Majority Leader Winnie Brinks for comment about the report. Brinks wasn't available and Hall hadn't responded by the time we filed this report. Will Jones, Local 4.
All right, well, thank you, sir. Joining us now in studio is the Wayne County Executive, Warren Evans. I can only imagine there's probably an entire pot filled of issues that you have on funding problems, but I'm guessing, and it's an assumption, tell me if I'm wrong, but probably one of the number one things you hear from people in Wayne County are road problems.
Absolutely, and the governor's been talking about it for 8 years,
right.
You know. We do, I think, an effective job with what we have. You know, we've assessed conditions differently so that we can repair the correct roads at the right time. Mm-hmm. But it's just a lack of funding, and it's a real reality. There have been groups that have looked at it and studied it. Act 51, which is the road funding act, is 74 years old.
It hasn't been touched.
And the people who should know it the best are also confused by it. It's a very confusing sort of thing, a mixture of roads and population. And I can tell you this, that Wayne County probably gets less per citizen, not probably, it definitely does, than other counties like Roscommon and others that are farther north by thousands of dollars. And
why is that? We don't know.
No, I mean, you know, as you're sitting there trying to figure out how this equation works, how could that be true? The other thing is it doesn't take into condition all of the miles in your freeway. It's just one lane mile. I mean, so if you have 3 lanes, it's considered the same as just one. Well, you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out. Yeah, right. So that really needs to change. And
is there any political will to actually get it done, though? Because we've been discussing this for decades and longer. And every time we seem to get close to a solution, things are pulled back. Every time the money exists, it's pulled back away. And I don't know what the solution is when we seem to be on this never-ending hamster wheel.
I think the priorities often go to a bunch of other things other than roads.
Because they're not sexy, right?
Yeah. I don't think
until you blow out your
exactly.
Tire.
Right. I don't think. I think there's a desire to get it done, but I don't think it's a passionate desire to get done. And I think things keep getting worse as costs go up. And you know, as I think we heard earlier, you get close to a cliff. The closer you get to the cliff, the harder it is to get back away from it.
Right.
And so I think something really needs to be done. I mean, the Republicans have put forth a bill. May not be the best bill in the world to everyone, but it's a bill. There's nothing that I've seen the Dems put up yet to try to deal with it, and it's an ongoing crisis. My job is to manage Wayne County, and
so
we need it.
That's my next question then, is how bad is it? I mean, we've gone, at least in my opinion, from repairs to all Band-Aids at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we probably do between 100 and 150 lane miles of repair every year.
Okay.
For all of the roads that we have in Wayne County, that's a drop in the bucket.
Right.
We could do more. We could contract for more if the money was there to do it. Because you got to understand, while we're talking about it, the roads are still depreciating because people are driving on them all the time.
Right.
And the Act 51 funding mechanism makes no sense to anyone. Right. So it's time to roll up your sleeves, and from a policy perspective, let's get a fix.
Well, what's interesting too is that, you know, you said it hasn't been touched in 74 years, 7 decades, and even in the last 5 years, 10 years, there have been so many changes and evolutions in technology in terms of more fuel-efficient vehicles, electric vehicles, where the revenue, the tax base is less, and it's going to continue to shrink. So not only do we have a growing cost on how much it costs to fix the roads, but a shrinking pool of money And again, there seems to be no synergy in the middle to try to figure out how we fix this.
And understand is a part of the infrastructure, which the roads are a big part of, is also bridges. Wayne County is the oldest county in the state. We have bridges that were a type of architecture that you couldn't find anybody in the world to fix at this point. I mean, these are $100 million, $60 million jobs that have to be done. I mean, without the bridge, you can't have an unsafe bridge. And you certainly have to have the bridges working so it can feed commerce and it can do all of the things that need to happen. So I just get very uncomfortable that we keep talking about it and we don't do anything about it. I would rather have a bill that wasn't perfect, but helped to fund roads and then work on the imperfections later. Let's do something. And I think we're just kind of spinning our wheels.
You had mentioned before we came on the air that you're concerned over a lack of priorities too. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but your thoughts on that 375 raising project is that while it could help and would be a nice project, is not necessarily a need, it's a want.
Yeah, I think so. I think it definitely is a want. I mean, I think when you have real infrastructure issues, bridges that need to be fixed and repaired, when you start talking about an expenditure of $100 million, to me, raising 375 up may be a nice project, but it's not a needed project. And, you know, when money is short, I don't know how you rationalize that project expenditure when you have so many other critical needs.
Yeah. Have you brought those concerns to state leaders and even city leaders in Detroit?
I have, and we're talking about them, and you know, actively trying to find a way to. My grandfather would have said, "Cut the hog." In reality, I think it's almost a done deal in terms of that piece, but I am not convinced. It was never a player in the development of it in the first place. It was a City of Detroit project.
Right.
But I just think financially, when you look at it, $100 million to raise 375 up to grade is not nearly as important in the scheme of things as to fix some of our bridges that certainly need repair. Throughout the county, we have a number of them. And as I said, they're the oldest bridges in the state because this is where it all began.
Yeah. You mentioned the City of Detroit. I do want to pivot just for a moment and talk about the Detroit mayor's race because I know what happens in the City of Detroit greatly affects Wayne County as a whole. Without putting a rubber stamp on any one candidate, what are your thoughts on the candidates that we have and the direction the race is going so far?
I'm not so sure about the direction the race is going. I'm not close enough to it, but I will say that in the last 20 years, we probably have the best field of candidates that we've had in an awful long time. Some have strengths in some areas, some weaknesses in others, but I think, you know, the ability to manage, the ability to understand governance, I think we have, you know, several people that could get the job done.
We've seen a lot of people, a lot of pundits talking about whoever the next mayor is should try to echo what Mayor Duggan has done in terms of working across both sides of the aisle and finding a lot of ways to bring in private money to build up the city of Detroit. Do you agree? Do you think that the next mayor has to be able to do similar things to keep Detroit going and also keep your tax base going?
Yeah, I mean, I think to some extent, but there are a number of other things that need to happen. I think that's important in the next mayor, and one of them is Detroit is contained in Wayne County. But historically, Detroit seeks funds from Lansing, Wayne County seeks funds from Lansing, when we could really work much closer together and say, what should our ask be from Detroit and Wayne County?
Instead of almost two separate entities.
Right. I mean, we would do better fiscally because there's enough juice there to get more done. But it also means we're not going off on different tangents. Our ask should be a cooperative ask. And I would think whichever candidate wins, that's something they really need to really think about is we're almost 1/5 of the state's voting population.
Right.
There is no need for us to be playing our separate game of
Yeah.
tennis.
Of different lobbying happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, you heard it here first. His door is always open for whoever our next mayor is going to be. Warren Evans, thank you so much for your time.
Good.
Appreciate you on
Thank
this
you.
Thursday morning. When we come back, we're going to try to get the full story on an update to a case we first brought you as breaking news on Tuesday. Coming up, a look at the investigation into a shootout between a man and the Warren Police Department. Welcome back, everybody. Today we expect to see body camera video for the first time of a shootout between Warren police officers and a man. This is video from the scene on Tuesday. Now, according to Warren Police, this started as a domestic violence call. The incident came to an end when the man was found dead near his mother's backyard. Today, we should be learning more about how he died. Our Shante Passmore takes a look at the details and what we know so far.
Good morning, Nick. This started as a domestic violence call, then it ended with a man dying in his mother's backyard. This morning, we're getting a snippet of what happened more than 48 hours ago.
He's shooting at us. He's shooting at us on the sunroof.
Shots fired.
Police audio captures the intense pursuit to track down 36-year-old Rakeem Wright. Early Tuesday morning, a woman called 911 saying her boyfriend had beaten and strangled her before trying to set the house on fire. The man drove off before police got there. Later, officers tracked Wright near 6 Mile and Van Dyke in Detroit. Police say he took off, sparking a pursuit. The department says Wright fired several shots at officers from his car before hopping out near his mother's home on Detroit's east side.
In the backyard, Sheila.
Your baby's in the backyard laying on the ground, Sheila.
In response to public scrutiny, Warren Police released a statement reading in part, "We are confident that the evidence we will present will clearly and unequivocally refute every single one of the false statements, assertions, and conclusions being publicized." Further saying, "Our facts, supported by compelling video and other evidence, will unquestionably demonstrate that the deceased's death was a direct result of his own actions involving a firearm as officers approached him." Meanwhile, we are also learning that Wright's family is planning to host a balloon release later tonight. Again, we are expecting to see that body cam worn footage released by Warren PD later this morning during a press conference. Local 4 will have a news crew there bringing you an update at noon. Warren this morning. I'm Shante Passmore, Local 4.
Shante, thank you. Happening in less than 20 minutes, a Novi man accused of stealing money from a Livonia sports complex is due in front of a judge. 28-year-old Todd McIntyre is accused of embezzling over $400,000 from that complex. He worked there as a general manager and allegedly stole the money over 2 years. McIntyre is due in court for a probable cause conference that starts at 9 o'clock. A live look now at the Stocks Futures Board. Investors are watching closely. Markets are waiting for new jobless claim numbers coming out this morning that could affect the economy. Investors are also waiting to see what happens on the NASDAQ today after tech giant NVIDIA made history on Wednesday, becoming the first company to be worth $4 trillion thanks to its work in AI. Plus, traders also waiting to see how the markets will react following President Trump's announcement of new tariffs, including a 50% tariff on Brazil. These tariffs, along with earlier copper tariffs, are starting on August 1st. We're going to come back here in 90 seconds with Ashley's forecast that has some temperatures that'll make your hair stand up. .47, although it'll be 8:48 here in 3 more seconds. 2, 1, 8:48.
Who's counting?
On your Thursday. Ashley Barrissey is here to talk about the forecast. Some rain in the forecast over the next couple of days, but really it's the temps that we have to look at, right?
Yeah, but you know, it's always nice to be able to hit the water and do some fun things.
Right.
But we do want to get a very important weather anniversary out that happened in Metro Detroit. We have some coverage of this event that happened 10 years ago. Go ahead and take a look.
In 3, 2, 1, go! Oh. Woo, it's a little slippery this morning. Whoa, I'm getting some air.
This video
it's a little slippery this morning.
Never gets old. Watch it, watch it. Airbound. Has your back recovered from that?
No. I'm looking in the rundown to see how you snuck this in without any. Oh, boy.
You know, Mary and I were sneaky.
Look at this. It doesn't even, it just says event, 30 seconds. You guys did a pretty good job here.
Yeah. So happening this weekend, if you didn't already guess, it's the Uncle Sam Jam. And in honor of the celebration in Woodhaven, we had to dig up Nick's trip on the slide. I mean, when you're airbound like that air will cool you off if you're hot. Woo!
So it was the dew on the slide. That was the number 1 problem. The number 2 problem is that I didn't have one of these, we call them lavalier microphones, clip on. So I had to hold the mic, and I only had one hand free. And when you're trying to stop yourself going on a slide, one hand ain't gonna cut it.
That just sounds like a whole lot of excuses.
It is. It hurt quite.
I think that might have happened. Yeah, that would have happened right around the time I left here. I just remember seeing that video, and it was like,
yeah. I want to say that was
fantastic
2016, 2017 in that range there.
Yeah. Well, was that the anniversary of the event or the anniversary of your event?
Oh. No, it's both. It is both. Both.
All right. Well,
thank you,
A decade
Ashley.
later, and your
Thank you,
back's still holding
Mary.
up.
Yeah. Whose idea was this?
Totally Mary's, but I was along for the ride. I didn't put up a fight.
Literally?
At all. Yeah.
You want to go down that slide?
Not quite like that one. But so yeah, if you are heading out to an event like that this weekend, I mean, have fun. Fun is in the forecast for sure, but it's going to be hot, so you want to stay hydrated. We're warming up throughout the rest of the week, and so every day getting a little bit warmer, which means we're likely cracking the 90s by Saturday. Humidity is also cranking up, and so we do have Two rounds of potential thunderstorms heading into the weekend. First one's a little iffy, which would be Friday. Second round a little more guaranteed with a cold front. So here's a look at our what we call a surface analysis. I'm going to circle the high pressure for you. There you see that's what's dominating our pattern for today, which is great. We get some sunshine and some drier weather compared to what we had yesterday. Just to the west of that, that's more of a disturbance that we're following coming out of the plains. And we have to really see over the next several hours how this interacts with some atmospheric conditions and whether this ends up being just a light rain event for us tomorrow or a really heavy rain event. So we do have a marginal risk of seeing some stronger to severe storms out of it, but it's kind of a boom or bust type of forecast. I'm all about transparency with that one. So let's go ahead and look at what would be the next weather maker, and that will be what is now just pushing into the plains, which will end up kind of merging and becoming this cold front that eventually works its way across southeastern Michigan. So tomorrow, marginal risk for excessive rainfall. If this ends up being on the more severe end of things, then we probably get 2 to maybe pockets of 3 inches of rain. So flooding would be a concern tomorrow with the potential for those showers that will occur in the afternoon and evening. Then as we head into Saturday, well, that cold front will bring some downpours and some gusty winds. So right now, as we're taking a live look outside, we're on either side of 70 across southeastern Michigan. And with today being really probably the drier day of the next few, and it's just going to continue to get warmer. I mean, get outside and mow the lawn if you can. I know it's not the news you want to hear, but I'm trying to give you the best window for that. So 85 degrees with some sunshine. We did have quite a bit of rainfall over the last 24 plus hours, and the bulk of that fell downriver, where we did have a flood advisory yesterday, and we picked up about 2 inches in portions of Livingston and Oakland County. And so quick look at how this times out for what potentially arrives tomorrow. You can see that that rain would be around 2, 3 o'clock. That model keeping it on the lighter side, but I just have to emphasize that it could be heavier. So by the time we get to late Saturday, a line of storms will develop, and that could take us into early Sunday before we dry things out. And then we will be in the upper 80s next week. Have you forgiven us yet?
I don't know yet. I'll think about it. I'll let you know.
I mean, when something is just a classic like that, that's a classic.
Doesn't matter how many painful memories it brings up. That's fair.
I mean, I am not the only one that likes to bring this up. Clearly, Mary does too.
Oh, trust me, every
that,
single person I know. I will go down for that video.
When you retire someday, that's like going to the clip that they
That's
take.
it. Yep, I'll be 67 years old trying to leave here and like, let's watch this video.
Not the multiple Emmy-winning reports that he's had.
No.
It's going to be that.
It's going to be that. Thanks, Ash.
Yes.
Well, timed in the bathroom. New Throne smart toilets are already in Ann Arbor. Now they're coming to Detroit and Royal Oak. You open them with your phone, and there is a time limit. How long do you have to do your business? It's longer than this 90-second break. Welcome back to Local 4 Live, everybody. Now to a story that is exactly the opposite of revenge spending. This is record buying. According to Adobe Analytics, online shoppers spent nearly $8 billion in the first 24 hours of Amazon's Prime Day sale. That's more than last year and bigger than Thanksgiving sales from last year as well. Last year, shoppers spent $14 billion during the 48-hour event, so they added 2 extra days this year. Adobe Analytics also says people are buying lots of home and outdoor stuff, but some things like beauty products aren't selling as fast just yet. Even though there are some worries about trade rules and prices going up, Amazon says they, they have not seen big price changes. Adobe expects online sales to reach $23.8 billion across all retailers during this 96-hour event, a level that is equivalent to 2 Black Fridays. Well, let's take a live look over Cadillac Square, downtown Detroit this morning, where starting today, you can sit on a throne of lies, as Buddy the Elf would say. This is actually a throne toilet. We already told you about these throne smart toilets in Ann Arbor. Now they are headed to Royal Oak and Detroit. The bathrooms run on solar power. They clean themselves, and you need a smartphone or a pass to get in. 2 of the bathrooms will operate in Cadillac Square until June of next year. These ADA accessible bathrooms include toilets, sinks, and a baby changing station. Now, as we told you last week, there is a 10-minute limit to the bathrooms, but don't you worry. When your time is up, the light starts flashing, you've got 20 seconds to pull your pants up and run out the door. Hopefully 10 minutes is long enough for you. Here's what you're going to see in our next hour of Local 4 Live. Bug bites. We're going to talk with a health official from Macomb County. This month has set a new record for tick bites, and West Nile has been found in Metro Detroit. What should you do when you're outside to protect yourself? Plus, do you get frustrated when you try to cancel a subscription or a gym membership, but the company makes it nearly impossible? An appeals court just made a decision that won't make it any easier on you. And then I'm going to talk to our Dr. Frank McGee about the best ways to stay hydrated in the heat. His advice? Old-fashioned H2O. We'll talk more about that. More news and weather in the next hour here. Stay with us on Local 4 Live.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. It is 9 a.m. We have a lot to cover in the next hour. Let's break everything down for you. We're going to start with the things that we hate, especially in the summer. Bug bites. We're going to talk with the health official from Macomb County. What should you do to protect yourself when you're outside? And some really gross numbers on the number of tick bites right now. Then the heat has been all over the place in terms of intensity lately, but one thing that doesn't change is how you should be staying healthy and safe during your time in the sun. I talked to our Dr. Frank McGeorge about the best ways to stay hydrated and stay protected from the UV. And then we'll take a look at the board just about half an hour before the stock markets open in New York. We're going to keep an eye on all of it this morning as one company shatters records, becoming the first to be worth $4 trillion. Let's get to your news headlines this morning. In about half an hour, an hour and a half, I should say, we're going to get our first look at the body camera video showing a shootout involving Warren Police. This is video from afterwards, after things happened on Tuesday morning. According to Warren Police, this started as a domestic violence call. It came to an end when the man was found dead near his mother's backyard. Today, we will learn more about how he died. Warren Police are giving an update at 10:30. We're going to show you that live right here on Local 4+. This afternoon, an Oakland County mother accused of abandoning her 3 children for years inside of a filthy home will be back in court. 34-year-old Kelly Bryant is currently facing 3 counts of first-degree child abuse after police say they found 3 of her children living alone in a Pontiac home. She was released back in June after posting bond with conditions that she can't have any contact with her children. We'll let you know what happens in the courtroom on later editions of Local 4 News. This morning, 31 workers in LA are safe after being trapped in an industrial tunnel. Police say the collapse happened last night about 5 to 6 miles from the sole entry and exit point. That's about 400 feet below ground. The fire department there says the trapped workers were able to climb over a about 15-foot high pile of loose soil to reach an exit point. Co-workers on the other side were also there. They were all taken to an access point. After that, over 100 first responders used cranes and rescue cages to hoist the workers out of the tunnel. LA Fire says, everybody trapped is expected to be okay. Let's take a live look in Texas this morning. More than 170 people are still unaccounted for after catastrophic floods. And now questions are starting to intensify about whether enough was done to warn residents about the rising floodwaters. We're also starting to hear heartbreaking stories of survival 1 week after floods took the lives of at least 120 people. One of those stories comes from a teen rescued by firefighters after he and his family were swept away.
You know, my dad just tried to cover where the sliding door was. This was anything, just, you know, boxes or with the table, but it just kept moving. You know, we thought maybe we would still be okay, but then that's when the vents, water just started coming like super fast from the vents. I remember something hitting me on the head. How I recall it is the roof fell, but you know, just next thing I know, house is gone, so I'm just in the water, just grab whatever. I wasn't really able to hold on to it. I just kept going. I think I just hit like a lot of rubble, you know, just like parts of houses, trees.
Well, right now, Leo's father, stepmother, and 2-year-old brother are all still missing. The memorial has been set up in downtown Kerrville to honor the lives of those lost and the ones who are still missing. Let's take a live look at the White House right now, where President Trump just announced Brazil is getting hit with a 50% tariff. That's according to his post on Truth Social. Trump says the country is getting a higher tariff because of its treatment towards Brazil's former president. Experts say unlike the 21 other countries that have received letters from Trump this week, Brazil ran a $6.8 billion trade deficit with the U.S. last year, meaning the U.S. exported more goods going to Brazil than goods imported from there. The president's also announcing Iraq, Libya, and Moldova will face a 20 to 30% tariff in the future as well. The increases are expected to start on August 1st. Well, folks over in Springfield Township have another chance to try to stop a gravel pit from moving into the area. The Levy Group wants to place a 422-acre gravel mine in a field, and neighbors say no way, they don't want it. Shante Passmore has a preview of that meeting tonight that is supposed to help township leaders decide on whether or not to accept the plans.
Hey there, before township leaders make a decision, in the past they've said they wanted to look into getting a third-party environmental firm to help them assess this project. And in my hand right now, this is a memo looking to establish an escrow account to hire experts and consultants to help them with that process. And based on the numbers we saw during the last board meeting, the turnout then, we're probably bracing for another round of protests. A lot of people in that community saying they don't want to see that gravel mine in their own backyards. Out of the 422 acres, we're learning the mining area would comprise of 213 acres. The extraction of gravel and other materials in the Springfield Township area is expected to take over 20 years, divided into 5 distinct phases. However, many residents say they're worried about the long-term health effects and quality of life.
This pit will be an environmental disaster. It will be a sound disaster. There's just so many things wrong. There's no benefit to our community. All we have to do is have our planning commission and our board from Springfield Township reject the special land use permit. That's all they have to do.
As for that township board meeting, it starts at 7 tonight. I'm Shantae Passmore, Local 4.
Shantae, thank you. We're going to turn now to summer bug bites and how to avoid them and what we are seeing locally. Starting with ticks, emergency rooms across the country are seeing a sharp rise in tick bites. July of this year has already hit the highest number of tick-related ER visits since 2017, and we're only 10 days into the month. Children under 10 and adults over 70 are most likely to be treated in the ER. Men are also treated more often than women. And then there's mosquitoes. We have seen 6 positive cases of West Nile virus in Michigan this year, but none in humans so far. Macomb County is the only local county where a mosquito pool tested positive. So to talk about all of this, we're going to go to the Macomb County Health Department. Tom Barnes is the Director of Environmental Health Services. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Forgive my point of question, but why? What is happening? Why are we seeing so many more ticks right now than in years past?
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Part of it is that this is the time of year where ticks and people are both the most active. So ticks are very active early spring, late spring to early summer. And then as the temperatures start to really heat up, that's when we see a little bit of a die-off in activity. So good news is hopefully we'll start to see a little bit of a waning in that as temperatures rise into the later parts of July and into August. But then, of course, it will pick back up again in the fall as temperatures cool off.
You know, I'm sure there are some instances where it's necessary, but I was surprised to see so many people going to the emergency room for tick treatment. I'm not saying you're a doctor, but you probably have plenty of experience in this area. At what point do you need to see a doctor versus trying to take care of this thing on your own?
Well, one of the things you want to look for when we talk about tick bites, mainly what we're concerned with when we do our surveillance in Macomb County is we look for the black-legged ticks, and that's because that's the one tick that can carry Lyme disease. Yeah. So if you start to see that typical bullseye rash that you get after a bite of an infected tick, that's when you want to be concerned and maybe seek out some professional medical care.
Yeah. So I know at the health department you guys have your own programs and procedures to work on areas, but at home, what can we do to try to, we can't get rid of them, but maybe deter the ticks from our own yards?
Sure. With ticks, really you want to avoid their habitat as much as you can. So if you're out on trails and hiking, stay on the trail, stay away from tall grasses because that's where they like to quest. At home, keep your lawn cut short. You can also do things like wear insect repellent, something that contains DEET or something that might have, if you don't like DEET, there's picaridin, which is another alternative. These are insect repellents that you apply to your skin, so you do have to apply them again after a few hours. But you can also, I know it's hard to do in these summer months, but wearing some long sleeves and long pants to avoid exposing your skin to getting bit by a tick. And then you can also treat your clothes too with another insecticide. It's actually called permethrin, and this will stay on your clothing through laundering, so it can stay on for a while and help actually kill ticks and mosquitoes too. So a lot of this stuff applies to mosquitoes as well.
Really? Now, when you look at the trends and the numbers, obviously we're seeing more ER visits. Are we seeing more ticks, or are we just seeing more people getting treated for them?
That's a good question. I don't know the definite answer to that at this point, and we definitely are seeing more ticks in our sampling this year compared to last year. The interesting thing about ticks is that they have a lot longer life cycle than most people might think. They can live for a couple of years, which means they can withstand some of our cold Michigan winters. So if we don't see those long, hard freezes, that can get below 20 degrees, if we don't see those going on for more than a couple of weeks, the population doesn't die off, and then we have more in the spring to deal with.
Gotcha. Okay, last question on ticks. Is there anything we can apply to our backyards or maybe a wooded area near our yards that might get rid of them?
I always stick to the things that you can do really for yourself. So I always stick to the insect repellents. Okay. I don't want to name any names, but there are things with DEET in them, and picaridin is the other one. I keep getting the two confused because they sound
but not necessarily
familiar.
Treating like a spray on your lawn or things like that.
There might be. I know there's some treatments out there for mosquitoes. I haven't really done a whole lot of research on what it looks like for ticks.
Gotcha. Okay. We are going to take a 90-second break here, Tom, and when we come back, we'll talk about another favorite topic of yours, mosquitoes. I'm sure you can't wait.
Sure. Yeah.
Welcome back to Local 4 Live. Back now with Tom Barnes, the Director of the Environmental Health Services in the Macomb County Health Department. So I wanted to ask now about mosquitoes. What are the numbers and trends you're seeing right now for this year?
So we're definitely seeing some more mosquitoes. That's primarily weather driven. So mosquitoes like it when it's wet outside. And we've had a pretty rainy spring and the first part of the summer too. So and they like stagnant areas to lay their eggs. So that helps with the population numbers that we're seeing now.
Yeah, so, in contrast to ticks, it must be somewhat frustrating because mosquitoes, there's plenty of things that we can do to deter them and deter their populations, including, standing water and things like that. What are your best, pieces of wisdom to pass along to try to avoid them from just multiplying in your backyard?
Yeah, so, yeah, you're absolutely correct. So with mosquitoes, they like stagnant water. So if you're like me, I've got my patio furniture covered, and we just had a lot of rain last night. So anything that's out there in your yard that's collecting or holding water, you've got tire swings, flower pots, kiddie pools, all that stuff that can just sit there and collect that water. You want to empty it out as soon as you possibly can. A lot of people like to have bird baths in their backyard too. Those are fine. They actually make a product called a mosquito dunk. It's a little disc that you can put in that bird bath, and it's still safe for birds and dogs to drink that water.
Oh, so I think a lot of people, when they think standing water, like you mentioned, maybe a kiddie pool, but even a small amount of water that's gathered like on top of your patio furniture cover, that's enough for them to be in?
Yeah, because you get other things that are in there too. You're going to get leaves, you're going to get other debris that might fall into there. So it's just a little bit of a mixture there.
Gotcha. Okay. You've talked about repellent multiple times now. Is it the same as it was for ticks as for mosquitoes, things with DEET?
Yes, correct. Yep. Same exact process that you would apply for ticks. You do the same with mosquitoes. The difference too with mosquitoes is we worry about the different diseases that mosquitoes can cause. One of them is West Nile virus, as you've probably heard about, and the viewers have probably heard about. Those are dusk biters, so they're out there and active in the evening time. So that's just another thing to think about is, the time of day that you're out there, there's going to be more activity with mosquitoes.
Oh, let me just make sure I understand then. You're saying that you're more susceptible to getting bit by a mosquito carrying West Nile in the evening?
Correct. Yep. So those are our dusk biters.
Oh, okay. I was unaware of that. In terms of West Nile numbers, then what are you seeing so far?
Well, right now we don't have any human cases, but we do see it in the mosquito pools that we sample. So we have a program here at the local health department, as many of them do in Southeast Michigan, where we intentionally try to catch mosquitoes, and then we send them off to be tested for West Nile virus. And we did just get one back about a week ago that was positive, and that's not too unusual. This time of year we do see it. It's a little earlier, but we do usually see it in July.
Gotcha. Okay, and then again, same question I asked for ticks. At what point do you recommend going to an urgent care or an ER if you do think you might have West Nile? What are the symptoms?
So for most people who get West Nile virus, there's not going to be any symptoms at all, about 80% of the cases. But some people might get fevers, headaches, body aches, those kind of things. And that's all fine. But you want to watch out and make sure those symptoms don't get worse, because if you start to get a really high fever, really bad headache, stiff neck, that's when that could be a sign of something else. It might not be West Nile virus, but it could be. So you want to check out and seek professional medical care.
Gotcha. Okay, Tom Barnes, Macomb County Health Department, thank you so much for your time on this Thursday morning.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Switching gears here, let's take a live look at the Mackinac Bridge. When we come back, a look at a report that shows just how much revenue the bridge actually makes for Michigan's economy. All right, the Mackinac Bridge is a landmark, of course, in Michigan, and it's also a big moneymaker for the Mitten State. The Mackinac Bridge Authority says a new study finds the bridge contributes $193 million every year to Michigan's economy. The study by public sector consultants says for every dollar in tolls collected, more than $7 is generated in economic activity. Most of that is near the Straits in Mackinac, Emmett, and Sheboygan counties. Speaking of Mackinac, what a beautiful picture that was. Live look over at the bridge there. It's picturesque out there right now.
It is, and in just a moment here, we're going to talk more about that up north forecast for the weekend. Okay. So if you're trying to make plans, or maybe you don't have plans for the weekend, and you're like, you know what?
Maybe
that
we
might
should.
just influence me to go.
Maybe we should.
Yeah, we do have this, summer-like heat rolling on, which is, I think, good news if you're heading north, because you don't want it to be too chilly this time of year. To help warm up the water up there. So your weather story, we're warming for the rest of the week. Mid-80s around here today, but we will likely be cracking 90 by the time we get into your Saturday. So looking at the humidity, that's really going to crank up as well as we head into the weekend. You can thank all that rain that we had yesterday as well, and a couple more rounds ahead going into the weekend that could potentially bring us some stronger storms. But for today, high pressure to our northwest will help dominate that weather pattern. Let's talk more about the possibility of some heavy rainfall. So we do have the chance for some heavy rain tomorrow, though it's kind of a boom or bust system as far as it'll either provide 2 to 3 inches of rain in some areas across Metro Detroit, or you might just get a little bit of light rain out of it because there's just a couple different atmospheric factors, and I won't dive into the weeds of that, but just letting you know that even less than 24 hours out, it's still a bit iffy. Now, Saturday, better chance for some rain as we head in the later part of the day with a cold front. And the timing's a little bit in flux because there's some model data indicating that there could be some stormy activity preceding the front. And then, of course, you could always deal with those storms along the frontal passage. We'll look at the model in just a moment here, but let's go ahead and take a look at these temperatures. We're in the 70s across Metro Detroit, and your hourly forecast for today, try to get outside, get that yard work done just because we do have a couple rounds of rain in the forecast over the next couple days, but 85 for the afternoon high. So if you wait until a little bit later this afternoon, it might be a bit toasty out there. I've been saying all day long, it's the air you can wear as the muggy conditions linger. But here's a look at today's forecast where we hold on to the sunshine, but by the time we get to Friday afternoon, peak heat of the day, scattered rain crossing the area. Now, this model run still keeps that rain on the lighter side. That's why it says a boom or bust situation, but at least it's showing you the timing of when we would likely see that occur. So let's look at clouds and radar. We have a chance for, I would say, some stronger storms going in the later part of Saturday. It's because of that cold front. So that cold front will be pushing in from the west, pushing eastward, and that does bring potentially a little bit more robust activity with the rain and the gusty winds, and that could linger into the first part of your Sunday. So it will likely pass through overnight as far as the front, but we'll continue to fine-tune the timeline of those storms. So your weekend forecast here will be on either side of 90 through the weekend, with the best chance for storms Saturday going into Sunday. Then as we travel up north, you can see that we have either side of 80 and Alpena. Best chance for rain would be on Saturday as we look towards Mackinac Island, where we will be in the mid to upper 70s, and those rain chances Saturday. Then off towards Traverse City, there might be a chance for a shower on Friday, and then once again Saturday, but temperatures will trend a little bit warmer in Traverse City compared to Mackinac, where we'll be in the low to mid 80s. So your full forecast, we will be close to 90 as we round out the weekend going into early next week.
Okay.
What was that? You're up to something.
Nothing. Nothing at all. I'm not digging up old footage to embarrass you at all.
No need to.
Not at all.
You're not going to find any.
You don't think so? YouTube is a marvelous place, actually.
Great. Hey, that wasn't my idea. Talk to producer Mary about
Producer Mary, I will. All right, when we come back, look at consumer headlines, including a tech company that just shattered the record for most valuable, $4 trillion. Well, breaking news now on a major Michigan company. The cereal company Kellogg's is being bought officially by the Italian company Ferrero, which is now known for brands like Nutella and Butterfinger. That would take Battle Creek's Kellogg deal private, valued at above $3 billion. The Ferrero Group will pay $23 for each Kellogg share. The deal still needs approval from Kellogg shareholders, but it is expected to close in the second half of the year. Once that happens, Kellogg's will no longer trade on the New York Stock Exchange because it becomes a private company. Well, if you are planning on buying any toys for your kids, you may want to do it sooner rather than later because families could start feeling the impact of tariffs in the toy aisle this fall. According to the CEO of Hasbro, it's getting ready to hike prices between August and October. The company makes toys like Play-Doh, Candyland, Dungeons & Dragons, all of Ashley's favorites. Hasbro says about half of its products are made in the U.S., but its main suppliers are in China and Vietnam. Those steep tariffs have been set. It's official. NVIDIA is the first company to be worth $4 trillion. The chipmaker's shares rose as much as 2.5% on Wednesday, pushing past the previous record of $3.9 trillion set by Apple in December of last year. This is coming after its all-time low when global stock markets were sent reeling by President Trump's global tariff rollout. Shares have surged nearly 20% this year since that explosive growth. Experts say NVIDIA has profited heavily from the growing demand for AI hardware and chips, servicing companies like OpenAI, Amazon, and Microsoft. Well, have you ever tried to cancel a gym membership or online subscription and the company makes it almost impossible? Well, a rule that would make it easier for you to cancel that is not happening. It was called Click to Cancel, and it would have required businesses to make it as easy to cancel a subscription or membership as it is to sign up for one. It was passed by the FTC during the Biden administration, but this week a U.S. appeals court blocked it, saying the FTC did not take the proper channels to get it done. Singer Jack White got quite the surprise over at Comerica Park yesterday after actor John C. Reilly threw out the ceremonial first pitch. Then he broke into song, belting "Happy Birthday." He was celebrating his 50th.
Happy birthday, dear Jack. Happy birthday to you.
Fans then joined in to wish him a happy birthday. He took it all in the stands with a smile. All Reilly was missing was his stepbrother, Will Ferrell. It's kind of hard to recognize him without all the curls, you know? So much more to come here in the next hour, a half hour, I should say, of Local 4 Live, including a conversation between myself and Doc McG. How he's trying to help you stay safe and hydrated in the intense summer.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Thank you for watching us on Local 4 Plus. Click on Detroit.com and on YouTube. Let's take a live look over Detroit right now. It's been a hot summer so far. Plenty of 90-degree days in Metro Detroit. Thanks, Ashley. With the heat comes, though, concerns over your health. So I sat down with Local 4's Dr. Frank McGeorge to talk about the best ways to stay hydrated and protect yourself from the sun. Dr. Frank McGeorge, I wanted to talk a lot about heat. We've had so much over the past, month or so. And you've seen a lot of patients in the emergency room, not necessarily heat stroke, but it gets to a point we should be concerned anyway, right?
Yeah, when we had the heat wave early in the season or a couple weeks ago, we did have a pretty rough patch where a lot of people were coming in, especially older people, significantly dehydrated, lots of fainting actually, palpitations, heart racing kind of thing, because people weren't taking the heat seriously. Now, of course, these were days when the heat index was above 100, and they were out there, gardening, doing whatever they normally would, and not really aware of how dangerous that level of heat is, and not pre-hydrating, like making sure that they were drinking enough fluids, that they were keeping up and really actually ideally getting ahead of the dehydration issue before it bit them.
Yeah, so your body is sweating so much, you're losing so many fluids, right? I don't think people truly understand how much you have to drink to to counteract that.
Right, and it doesn't have to be like a drenching, pouring sweat. Like you don't have to have sweat dripping off of you to get dehydrated. You're naturally sweating constantly in that kind of heat all the time. And the issue is, first of all, you're losing sweat, so you're losing fluid through your sweat. But then as it gets hotter, of course, the sweating becomes less effective, and that's when perspiration does begin to accumulate. But you'll notice it like just in your armpits, your groin, you'll notice like that your clothing is getting damp because the sweat is just building up. And that gives you some idea of how much fluid you're losing. But keep in mind, again, you're losing fluid through your arms, through your face, through your forehead, through your legs, through areas that don't have clothing on them. So that's a lot of evaporative area. So ultimately, it does end up being quite a bit of fluid.
You had mentioned that it was mainly older patients. Is there a reason for that, or is it just does it run the gamut, or can it?
Oh yeah, it can definitely run the gamut. But the thing about older people is, first of all, they're often on a lot of medications or have medical problems that make them more susceptible. But honestly, part of it is, I think, I don't want to say a lack of awareness, but they're more sensitive to it to begin with because of the medical issues. But there is a sense that they're a little more invulnerable because they maybe have been through it before, they don't really think about it that much, or they don't have anybody like giving them a good heads up or a warning. But the biggest issue really is that when older people become dehydrated, they just don't have the same reserve they had when they were younger, and all of a sudden they just get caught off guard.
All right, so if I've got elderly parents or loved ones, neighbors, I should be calling and saying, listen, Mom, I need you to drink even more water today.
100%. And I actually made it a point to warn people in my life that when they were older, that it was going to be super hot out, not that they didn't already know that, but that they needed to like ratchet it back significantly because it does catch up with you a lot faster than you might think.
Right. And I know, at least for me, sometimes you walk a fine line with your parents of not trying to beat them over the head with a common sense hammer, and you don't want to feel bad about it, but these are things that we really should be talking about.
Well, yeah, and sometimes it feels silly to say, hey, it's hot outside. Like, duh, who doesn't know it's hot outside, right? But there are times, I think, when it's really, really hot outside and people just, again, get caught off guard. They don't realize it.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about sunscreen. This is one of those things that even myself, I'll forget to put it on when I walk outside. You can get burned very quickly when the UV index is this high.
Oh yeah, when the UV index is super high, your burn times are very short, periods of 10, 20 minutes. You can begin to get significantly burned. And honestly, sunscreen is something that should be universal, but my big push is for big hats, and this is mine, and ultraviolet protective clothing. And so like this says on the sleeve, and it doesn't have to say it on the sleeve, but UPF 50 plus sunblock.
Okay. It says block the burn on it.
Right. This one actually even does say it. But I have, drawers full of sun protective clothing.
Don't you get hot
that I wear? No, actually, I mean, feel it. It's really thin, actually. It is a little bit more expensive, I will say, than, an ordinary shirt, so to speak. But if you think about how much you spend on sunscreen, I think this is actually a good value long term because I don't wear sunscreen. I just put this on, and you can tell, where my sleeve ends. I don't know if it shows up well on camera, but you can see that my sunscreen sleeve ends right here. And
beautiful skin.
Well, this part of my hand is, is at high risk for melanoma. But because I'm holding a fishing rod most of the time, this area gets burned. This area gets protected because my hands are curled down.
Right, right.
And then this area is where the sun protective shirt ends.
Okay.
So this is the area right here that I should really be wearing sunscreen on. Right. But frankly, because I have my hands in and out of water all the time, I don't really do it. But I guess really what I'm getting at is sunscreen is super important. If you're not going to wear sunscreen, at least invest in some sun protective clothing, big hats, that kind of thing. That's really, I think, the better bang for the buck. Okay. And realistically, I'm just not a fan of sunscreen in the sense that you have to apply it, you have to remember to reapply it.
How often?
Well, you should if you're going in the water, you need to reapply it pretty frequently.
Okay.
Every 30 minutes to an hour.
Well, nobody's doing
if
that.
You are right. If you're not sweating or if you're not in the water, it can be a little bit spread out.
Okay.
But big picture, you do have to reapply it.
Yeah.
I don't like the smell. I don't like the feel of it.
You don't want to smell like coconuts all day long?
I don't want to smell like coconut. And honestly, I'm not a fan of, the chemicals are safe. I'm just not a fan of spraying a bunch of chemicals on my body.
Okay.
That's just not me.
Yeah.
So personally, this just makes more sense. And frankly, I'm a little cheap. And so this is a better way to stretch your dollar, so to speak, rather than buying sunscreen that you're just going to wash off at the end of the day anyway.
There's a fine line here because I know that there are a lot of people who like the suntan. They want to get that glow. So if they are going to go that route, SPF 20, 30, 6,000, like what's your advice?
So here's the issue, okay? So if you want to get a suntan and look healthy, you have to accept the fact that you're basically increasing your risk of melanoma and increasing your risk of sun damage that is going to worsen as you age.
Right.
If you're okay with that, melanoma and sun damage, sure, go ahead and get a suntan.
Well, that's a caveat.
Yeah, and in that setting, there is no ideal way to suntan. I mean, some people have this theory they just want to burn and get it over with, and then their skin will change color, and it's true, they will. And keep in mind, that color change is your skin adapting to the fact that it was injured by a burn. Like, that's what your body does.
Right.
So there's no proper way to get a suntan. You're just going to have to accept the fact that you're getting burned. The better way to do it, honestly, is a spray tan or tanning lotion. And I'll be quite honest, my wife, she does not like getting burned in the sun, and I spray tan her. I'm being cheap maybe, but I spray tan her. Like, we have a spray tan setup.
Okay.
It's not terribly expensive. You can buy the stuff online. It works great. And once you get really good at it, you can spray tan, your loved one for basically like pennies on the dollar.
The image I have in my head right now of you spray
More
tan.
than you all wanted to know about my habits.
Okay, let's say we do spend too much time out and we do get burned.
Yeah.
What's the best way to treat a sunburn?
So, that speaks to another point, actually. There is no fabulous way to treat a sunburn. So if it's blistering, depending on where it's blistering and how big the blistered areas are, you are at significant risk for not only pain, but dehydration, actually, because blistered areas tend to actually exude more fluid. So you do need to stay hydrated. You need to control the pain, but otherwise it's basically applying a moisturizer continuously. And the ones with aloe, that kind of thing, are generally going to be the preferred agents.
At what point do we need to go to an urgent care or an ER if it gets that bad?
So, a lot of times we see people that show up with sunburns in the ER because of pain, honestly. Like, people will burn, they will blister superficially, and then they will peel, and they kind of, if they've done it before, they kind of know what to expect.
Right.
But getting burned over a large surface area, your back, your front, your legs, etc., that's a large body surface area. That will cause you to feel flu-like because you're losing a lot of fluids. Your body is basically trying to recover its, the cellular damage that you've just done.
Right.
And in that circumstance, IV fluids can actually be helpful if you can't keep up with your fluid intake, or pain medicine if you are in a lot of pain. But generally speaking, the sun is not going to produce like a third-degree burn. It's not going to burn into the tissue.
I see.
It might just produce some blistering, and obviously a lot of redness and pain.
So again, outside of the pain, you probably don't have to go see a physician unless it's really, really painful.
Exactly, unless it is an incredibly large body surface area. Again, your front, your back, your legs, your arms.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'd say, maybe you're going to want to see somebody. The other thing I should mention, though, is there are some medications that can sensitize you to the sun and make it much worse. And so if you happen to notice, for example, that you have much more redness and pain than you normally do with a sunburn, that would actually be a time to see a doctor, because potentially we might give you some medications to try and slow down that process.
Okay. Final thoughts on fun in the sun safely.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it is just common sense, which unfortunately, I don't want to say people lack, but you put it aside when you're having fun.
Yeah,
and
right.
With adults, alcoholic beverages are often, involved in it, and so judgment kind of slips a little bit.
Right.
I would say that's a big deal, though. Limit your alcohol intake in the sun for a lot of reasons that are kind of obvious.
Dehydration is one of them.
Dehydration, certainly behavioral issues, sun issues. I mean, there's just a lot of good reasons to just be a little smart about it.
Right.
If you are outside on super hot days, make sure that you're staying well hydrated. Make sure that you pre-hydrate before you go outside. My favorite thing, and I'll say it 100 times, as many times as people will listen, look at your urine. If your urine is darker yellow, that means you're getting dehydrated because your kidneys are basically holding on to fluids and that concentrates your urine. You should be peeing basically light yellow to almost clearish urine on a constant basis. If your urine gets dark, it means you need to drink more fluids.
Gotcha.
It's really that simple.
Speaking of fluids, my last question for you here is: there's so many products out there that promise to be the best hydrating fluid there is.
Yeah.
I mean, is good old-fashioned H2O the best way to go, or do you like Gatorade with electrolytes and things like that?
So if you're out performing an athletic activity for a long period of time, there's some research to suggest that electrolyte replacement is actually a good thing because you're losing in really a super physiological, a super high amount of fluid and electrolytes.
Okay.
But if you're just a normal person sweating out in the sun, doing normal stuff, and you're eating a normal diet, so you're not salt restricted, calorie restricted, something like that, normal water is just fine, honestly. Like there's no reason to waste extra money on a special electrolyte beverage. And even for athletes, I would still say water is generally the right answer. But again, there are times when you might push it beyond a level where water and an electrolyte might be a little bit more helpful. Like it'll just help you avoid heat cramps, to be honest, because that's an electrolyte disturbance in addition to getting dehydrated.
Ironic to have this conversation in the middle of a storm.
Yeah, right. Well, you can't. The weather. It's Michigan,
All right, Dr. McGeorge, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Hey, take care.
We learned a lot of things about Dr. McGee we did not know until now. Thank you so much, Dr. McGeorge. You can join him on Tuesday for our next Go For It event, by the way. That was suggested by our viewers. We're going to learn first aid basics. You can sign up using the QR code on the screen or by going to clickondetroit.com. Free classes with the Red Cross are going to start every hour from 10 o'clock until 6 p.m. It's happening at U of M's Dearborn's Fairlane Center South building. That's at 19,000 Hubbard Drive over in Dearborn. Let's take a live look now at the stock market, which opened 12 minutes ago. How the numbers could shake out based off of yesterday's close. We'll dive into that in just a moment. More breaking news on this Thursday morning, this time from Sterling Heights. They are looking for this 13-year-old boy. His name is Nolan. He was reported missing early this morning. He was last seen at 1 o'clock in the morning near Hall Road and Duffield Avenue. That's pretty close to Van Dyke. If you know anything about where Nolan could be, please call the Sterling Heights Police Department immediately. Let's take a live look at the board right now. We're coming off the heels of yesterday's end to the market, and as you can see right now, standing in the red, but not too far down. Again, waiting for a lot of things that could happen on jobless reports, President Trump's additional tariffs, waiting to see how the market will react to that. Yesterday, stocks posted gains with the Dow up 217 points, the Nasdaq gaining 192, the S&P 500 added 37 points. Well, this morning we are expecting to learn more from the Warren Police Department about a shooting that left a man dead near his mother's backyard. Police are going to be releasing details and some evidence around this case, including some body cam footage. Our Shante Passmore brings us up to speed on what we know so far.
Good morning, Nick. This started as a domestic violence call, then it ended with a man dying in his mother's backyard. This morning, we're getting a snippet of what happened more than 48 hours ago.
He's shooting at us. He's shooting on the sunroof.
Shots fired.
Police audio captures the intense pursuit to track down 36-year-old Rakeem Wright. Early Tuesday morning, a woman called 911 saying her boyfriend had beaten and strangled her before trying to set the house on fire. The man drove off before police got there. Later, officers tracked Wright near 6 Mile and Van Dyke in Detroit. Police say he took off, sparking a pursuit. The department says Wright fired several shots at officers from his car before hopping out near his mother's home on Detroit's east side.
In the backyard, Sheila. Your baby's in the backyard laying on the ground, Sheila.
In response to public scrutiny, Warren Police released a statement reading in part, "We are confident that the evidence we will present will clearly and unequivocally refute every single one of the false statements, assertions, and conclusions being publicized." Further saying, "Our facts, supported by compelling video and other evidence, will unquestionably demonstrate that the deceased's death was a direct result of his own actions involving a firearm as officers approached him." Meanwhile, we are also learning that Wright's family is planning to host a balloon release later tonight. Again, we are expecting to see that body cam worn footage released by Warren PD later this morning during a press conference. Local 4 will have a news crew there bringing you an update at noon. Warren this morning. I'm Shante Passmore, Local 4.
Shante, thank you. Also happening right now in a Livonia courtroom, a Novi man charged with embezzling money from a Livonia sports complex going before a judge for a probable cause conference. 28-year-old Todd McIntyre is accused of embezzling over $400,000 from the complex while employed as a general manager. His bond is currently set at $750,000. Let's take a live look at Amazon's website right now. When we come back, a closer look at the revenue generated from Prime Day and the records being broken for the amount of money you people are spending. Hey everybody, welcome back to Local 4 Live. Ashley Barrissey joined me at the perfect time because we're talking about some shopping on Amazon right now. If you still have time to fill up your shopping carts for a Prime Day event, you should, because according to Adobe Analytics, shoppers spent nearly $8 billion in the first 24 hours alone. Now, just for some reference, that is more than last year and bigger than Thanksgiving sales from last year as well. Last year's shoppers spent $14 billion during the 48-hour event, so they added 2 extra days this year. Adobe Analytics also says people are buying lots of home and outdoor stuff, but some things like beauty products are not selling as fast. Even though there are worries about trade rules and prices going up, Amazon says they haven't seen any big price changes yet. Adobe expects online sales to reach $23.8 billion across all retailers during this 96-hour event. That's equivalent to 2 Black Fridays. Ashley's been shopping the entire time and reading that script. Finding anything good?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm just kidding. I might have ordered a couple things off of Amazon.
ya?
I just had a couple deliveries yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah, and nothing big. Did you order those sound cases?
I
and
didn't.
headphones?
I was going to, but decided I was going to wait on those. Yeah.
So I feel like I developed a little bit of a problem with Amazon.
Oh,
because it's so easy. You're just
100%.
one click, one click, one click.
Right.
You know, and then you get into this rut where everything's just so easy, and then you're like, you get your credit card bill, and you're like, oh my gosh, what have I done?
Well, you know you have a problem when the packages are showing up and you don't
can't
know
remember.
what's in them. You're like, what did I order again?
Yes. So now I take a beat. I see something, put it in the cart. I'm like, okay, I'm going to wait a little bit, and then I'll realize if I really need it or not. You know, if you think about it again.
Go back again.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, I didn't think about it. I don't really need
Does
that.
the cart just add up exponentially? Like, whoa.
You know what has added up? The save for later. That's a long
Oh.
list. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 14 pages long. We definitely don't
Probably.
need in there anymore.
Right. There's so many things in there that don't even exist anymore. No, I'm just kidding. Let's go ahead and get to the forecast because, you know, you're going to want to try to stay cool, and maybe you're trying to find a new umbrella because we've had quite a few rain events. So maybe Amazon has a deal on that. You'll need the umbrella as we go the next 2 days. Not today, unless you're just trying to shade yourself from the sun, which is a good thing. So warming the rest of the week. We have the humidity cranking up this weekend, and then 2 rounds of possible storms. And so you see that high pressure over the UP, bringing us that sunshine for today, but keeping a close eye on what's kind of pushing into portions of the Midwest, as that could bring some instability to our area as we head into your Friday. And then otherwise, we have that next system just behind that. It'll end up being a cold front sweeping through our area heading into your Saturday. So tomorrow, we have a marginal risk for excessive rainfall, which could lead to flash flooding, and that's a little bit of a boom or bust type of forecast. There are a lot of factors that play into it, and so I think that you see maybe a little bit of rain, but there will be the potential that there will be a lot more moisture in the atmosphere at that point, which could lead to some heavier downpours. Then as we head into Saturday, it's a cold front that'll bring us that storm potential. So 70s right now across southeastern Michigan. Today's really the day to get outside, get some of that yard work done because we had the rain yesterday. We have a couple chances the next 2 days, and this time of year that grass grows like this. So mow the lawn if you can. Just try not to do it in the peak heat of the day, as that 85 will feel a little bit warmer with that humidity. So we get a few clouds mixing in this afternoon. It won't rely on an isolated pop-up, but model data not even picking that up. Next best chance for rain would be Friday and the peak heat of the day. That model keeping it more on the lighter side, and then the next chance after that will be the cold front that comes in. Now, as it stands, and this has been consistent over the last 24 hours, that front will pass through Saturday night into Sunday. And you see how the rain, the projected rain, is right along that frontal passage. Now, with the heat and humidity Saturday, I mean, we're talking 90, feeling like upper 90s with the heat index. You could see some of those storms firing off ahead of that front, so preceding the front. But we're going to continue to keep a close eye on how that ends up working its way into our area. Otherwise, here this weekend, we will be on either side of 90 with the storm chances a little more prominent by late Saturday. And then up towards Alpena, probably either side of 80 degrees through your Friday into Sunday. And then Mackinac Island, a little cooler, mid to upper 70s. And you see the pattern there. Storm chances best Saturday, but for Traverse City, you might get a passing shower come Friday. So that full forecast will be right around 90 on Saturday, and then we only fall a couple degrees, still hanging tight in the upper 80s through the first half of next week. Do you find anything good, Nick?
Not yet. I'm working on it.
I know. It's like when you get put on the spot, you're like, oh, I have to find something.
Right, because it's Prime Day and you got to get something.
Right.
What if I miss a good deal?
I'm like so opposite. Like I order something every day of the year, and then on Prime Day, I don't order.
You have to order more. Yeah. Thanks, Ash. Yeah. When we come back, we're going to check in with Kim and Tati from Live at the D, talking about what's happening in the D and on that phenomenal show that starts in 1 hour and 6 minutes. Hey everybody, welcome back to Local 4 Live. I'm actually surprised that Kim and Tati are here because yesterday, you were chilling in Gardner White on some lazy boys and couches. I'm like, those two are not coming back to the studio ever.
I mean, we asked to move
We
in.
did. The goal was to bring the furniture back to our own homes.
Exactly.
How'd that go?
Beautiful. Wow, it was amazing. Have you ever been in the new store yet, GW Home?
I have not.
I highly recommend it.
Oh my
Really?
This stuff is
They were saying it's like a
beautiful.
totally different kind of vibe and different types of furniture there.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
and it's just like in the heart of downtown Detroit. You're just
Right.
like looking at all the downtown buildings. And it's not just furniture. It was like candles, blankets, like
Lots of
nice
gift
little
items.
gifts. Yeah.
Mattresses
How's your
downstairs.
credit card statement looking nowadays?
We spent, what, 2.3 paychecks? We're doing the math.
Yeah,
so
it
we
was,
spent a
it
lot
was
of money.
rough.
What's today? What do we got?
Well, the thing I'm most excited to talk about is you are a dad. We're talking about how Melinda Gates is refusing to fund the tech startup of her Gen Z daughter, saying that she needs to go out there and learn some grit.
Because, you know,
Other people.
Melinda Gates doesn't really have much money
Not
to
much
fund her
money.
daughter.
Just a light work, 31 billion.
Listen, I don't know if I
like
could
that.
do it. I mean, I had trouble saying no to ice cream last night. And then we ended up getting ice cream last night.
Exactly.
I mean, she wants her kids to learn grit. You know,
I
my
get that.
argument is that, listen, she's starting a tech startup, a company, but she's not struggling to pay her rent.
Yeah.
That's
you know what
fair.
I mean?
That's fair.
She's
Right.
not struggling to get
Yeah,
groceries.
You're not struggling on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she's trying to, you know, build character, like
Yeah.
help her daughter build some character.
Get it.
But we're having this conversation today on the show. Also talking about micro weddings. You know what that is? You're on to something.
You can
It's the
invite
huge
3
new
people.
trend. It's the huge new trend. People are trying to save money. They keep hearing these horror stories about people
Yeah.
having big
Yes,
weddings and
yes.
not
Yeah.
really enjoying
Right.
them. So save some money and
They're
be
saying
happy.
time to go.
Oh, but we have so much more to talk about.
I know.
I guess you have to join us for the
Working.
show.
That's
right.
Live of the D starts in exactly an hour right here on Local 4.